right, hello. Welcome to the Lions Awaken show. I am Matthew Detweiler.
And I am Caleb Babanka.
Today we have a special guest with us, Brad Cummings.
Ooh, this will be good.
Yep.
Yeah,
Thanks for being on here.
Thanks for coming on.
Seriously, thanks for being on
No,
here.
no, I'm excited. We had a little pregame. We talked, and you guys got something going on. I'm excited.
All right. So, for those of you that do not know Brad, he is the co-writer of the book, The Shack, or is that correct?
Yep. There are three of us.
You published the book on your own, right?
Out of my garage. Yep. $200 of marketing.
Wow.
Sold the
That's
first
incredible.
million units out of the garage, which was a little crazy.
That
My
is
wife
crazy.
was our first shipping, department, and then she quit. It was awesome.
That's brutal.
The neighbors, I think, ended up thinking we were a bunch of drug dealers. They're like, "How many packages do you send out?" So I mean, it was fun. We didn't know what was going on. We packed all the kids into one bedroom because the publishing company took over the others, and it's like,
Wow.
at some point it's like, "Hey Lord, can I sleep anytime in the next year?" Yeah,
Wow.
I mean, it was crazy. We did not expect that to happen.
So how long did you sell out of your garage for?
For the first year, and then it just snowballed, and then I realized either I have to get a warehouses and a forklift, or we got to partner with somebody that actually does this as a much grander scale. And I thought, I'm gonna die if we hold on to this. And so we found a New York publisher that wouldn't destroy us. And then 22 million copies later, it's like, wow, who would have thunk?
Unbelievable.
It's God.
So
Because that was the first ever self-published title to debut on the New York Times Bestseller list as #1.
yes,
And it was on there for 100 weeks.
yes.
Holy.
So good job.
Yeah. He got like, nice. That's the first time in that. It's downhill from here.
You made it. You peaked.
Wow. That's only one of the many things that God has done through your life. After that, you produced the movie, The Shack. You put it into a movie. And that's a really
Amazing
awesome movie. Yeah, I
Yeah.
watched it.
What was so amazing is to get it done faithfully, but to make it through Hollywood.
Oh,
yeah, that's like a miracle.
Yeah.
Well, it was a 7-year World War III miracle. I mean, it was tough.
I bet. Yeah.
I bet.
But the Lord told me a while back, he said, Hollywood is like the woman at the well.
Wow.
She
Wow.
knows she's sinful. She has no idea how much I love her.
Ooh.
And that kind of meant that I couldn't really do the movie completely independent and outside. And what I'd learned from publishing is if you want the world to be touched by something, you can't pretend to just do this on your little shoestring in the back corner. It's like you actually need to know folks how they can reach that. And I'm going like, I do not know all the languages in the world to get it there. I mean, the Shack book went into 40-some different languages.
Wow, that's
And there was
incredible.
no way that, I speak English,
You couldn't have done that from your garage, huh?
And so we needed help. And it's like, but it kept being a gift that you gave to someone else whose life got touched by it. And to watch this story go through some pretty hardened, eat you alligator type people of Hollywood, where just everybody's been betrayed. So they all have to have rhino skin, so they're not like real lovey.
Yeah.
And because it's such high stakes, you have to be super awesome to kind of make it through that gauntlet. And to watch these people be touched by that story, that was just an absolute treat.
Wow.
You're going like, God, if you can do this with these people, is there anything that you cannot do? Because it came out and it was faithful. It really did touch a lot of lives. We had people that for the first time said, I don't know which one I like better. And almost always the book is always better than the movie because your imagination has no budget.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah.
Exactly.
And I cast all my favorite people in it.
Yeah.
And so the movie is a step down from the unlimited budget and perfect cast.
Very true.
And it still came out pretty powerful. So
It was
I
a
was kinda
powerful
thrilled.
movie.
Yeah. And how was working with Sam Worthington?
You know what was such a blast is Sam showed up and you could tell he was struggling his way through the script. He's really trying to understand this. And this is not anything of the God of his childhood or anything that he had really known.
Wow.
And so we'd purposely changed the movie from the book, where in the book you got a frustrated believer. In the movie, we decided to have more of a skeptic.
Oh, okay.
And so it actually worked well.
Yeah.
Yep.
But Sam was kind of working his way through just what was going on, and you could see it's like by the end of the movie, it's like the Lord had significantly touched him.
Mm.
And then he goes off to do Hacksaw Ridge.
Oh, yeah,
And
yeah.
I don't know if you remember that movie, but it's like he then plays the character that has to look at dogs and see who this guy. And so I'm sitting there by the end of it, you know, we're in post by the time he comes back, and he's supposed to do a press junket, and I'm going like, do I want? I mean, you guys probably have an audience, so this might be heard by other people.
Yeah.
So I'll be careful about how I say this.
Yeah.
I wasn't sure I wanted Sam to be the spokesman for the deeply spiritual movie without fully knowing where he was at.
Right.
But he had spent, in essence, the summer in God's tractor beam.
Wow.
And between our movie and that movie, it's like God had punched his ticket in such a cool way, so that when he started to talk about the movie, it was from genuine passion.
That's amazing.
From the inside. And you're just going like, you can't pay for that.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And the fact that this got so inside him, he told my producing buddy, he said, you know, I'd like to do more movies like this.
Wow.
And you just go like, that's about as cool as it comes. Because I mean, it's like he's the the Titan dude.
Yeah, he's an A-list
Avatar.
Yeah. He's A-list.
Yeah, and so for him to kind of go like, I'd like to do, because his friends, all of his family and friends back in Australia, they would kind of say, you know, those other movies are cute, but now you're making a real movie, because it's not just an action thing. It's like you actually have to act.
Right.
Yeah.
And they really felt like this story had some depth and some chops. And so all of his friends and family were most proud of him in this movie, as opposed to killer box office smashes that he had done others. But this one really meant something. And that's kind of what it felt like. It is like this story is best as a gift given to somebody else.
Yeah.
And you let them have some life-altering encounter with it, and they just can't keep quiet. And, you know, we're not that great at what we do to be able to take that credit. It's like, that's God doing something,
Yeah,
you know?
exactly.
I mean, that's pretty easy.
Did he have any faith background at all, or?
He had enough to not reject it,
Okay, so he was very open.
but it's not like there was anything active.
Oh, I gotcha.
You know, what was cool is Octavia Spencer. She, you know, I had a buddy that had snapped a picture of, you know, 3 of the top black actresses, and he kind of, you know, was on set doing that, and he snapped me a picture and says, take your pick, here's your 3 papas. And Octavia Spencer was in that picture, and she was the one that ultimately got the role. And I had a chance to kind of sit with her, and I just said, so why did you want to do this? And she tried to start telling me, but then she just started crying. And she just was so impacted by it. She says, I had to do this. This book has changed my life more than anything else. And I asked her, I said, so how do you kind of prepare? I said, you get all these questions and all these, you know, crazy little entertainment shows and stuff like that. It's like, how do you prepare to play God? And they don't know how to ask that question, but it is one that crosses your mind. It's like, you're about to be God, so how do you do that?
Yeah.
And she said she would sit in her hotel room and just read through the book and cry. Wow. So when you get someone like that, where you're going like, okay, in Hollywood, when all of a sudden you declare that you're a person of faith, your career might be over.
Yeah.
And she wasn't exactly doing that as much as she was just saying, I had to do this movie. And so, you know, she had been in The Help.
Yep.
And, and you know, in that movie, they had this, you know, the gift of these pies.
Oh, yeah.
Well, in order to convince all the exec staff that she wanted to do this movie, because we had other people that were vying for it, she sent pies to everyone. Which I thought was totally funny. And I'm going to ruin the movie for somebody else. I said, did you send any chocolate ones? And she went, she hadn't even thought of it. So the exec that got the chocolate pie might not have enjoyed it as much as other people.
You might have thrown it away.
It was funny. The other cool thing is, it was the first time that Jesus has ever been played by a genuine Orthodox Jew.
Oh, my goodness. That guy played an amazing Jesus.
What's
his name?
Aviva Lush.
Aviva Lush. Okay.
And up until now, he'd always been the quintessential bad guy. So this was the first good guy role that he had ever
my
done.
Wow.
And I asked him, I said, why did you, as an actual Orthodox Jew, I mean, it's for real.
Yeah.
And he means it. He said, I just read the script, and Jesus just seemed like the coolest friend to Mac.
Wow.
And I just went, okay, you got it.
Yeah.
Wow.
We don't need any more direction here. You got it.
Wow.
My perspective on Jesus, like, completely opened up big time, like way more after seeing that movie. I was like, oh my goodness, like he was so much more relatable.
Yeah.
So much more relatable. Just
Yeah.
that actor did an amazing job.
See, when I got saved, I was a 6-year-old little kid. I was at the end of a Bible study, and some lady was talking about Jesus using a felt board. You guys don't have no idea what that is, okay?
Nope.
That's where they have flat little characters made of flannel stuff, and they stick it on the board. And so that was our audiovisual stuff. But she was talking about how cool Jesus was. And at the end of her little talk, she says, anyone here that wants to have Jesus as their friend? And I'm looking around.
Like, oh, yeah.
Well, no. Mr. Felt is standing behind the board. The Felt character of Jesus is actually standing behind the board. Now, I have an overactive imagination as a little 6-year-old. We'll just credit it for that. But I was seeing a person. And when she said, is there anyone here that wants to have Jesus as a friend? He winked at me. Wow. And so I raised my hand, because it's like when you're 6 years old, you're not like repenting of your deep, dark, drug-addicted past, you know.
I hope not. I hope not.
I think I had sinned, but I'm not sure if I had yet or not. But the idea of wanting a friend was what mattered. And the idea that he wanted me my friend, I just thought that was the coolest thing. And so I went up to the lady after, you know, she had us pray a prayer, and it's like I think I repeated her prayer. But at the end of it, I went up to her. I said, can you see him? And she says, see who? And I pointed to little Mr. Felt on the board, and I said, well, I see him standing behind the board. And she said, she had the presence of mind, and just like, you know, I think the Holy Spirit's revealing himself to you. And she just validated. I shuddered to think if she had actually, you know, not been open to the thought that a little kid was seeing something real. But that's the heart of what's in the shack. I think it's the heart of why it impacts people, because it removes us out of the theological doctrinal realm. And it actually makes God a person that you just might, in a difficult time, have a conversation with.
That's good.
And it's like, you know what? We make this so much more difficult than it needs to be.
Yeah.
And little kid, I think that's why when he said, you know, it's like unless you become like a little kid, you're going to have a hard time entering this kingdom.
Exactly.
And I think that's really what the secret sauce of that story was, and why it made such an impact on people, is because it didn't get lost arguing over doctrine things, but it revealed truth as a person that you kind of liked. I mean, like Viv just sort of was a great friend. I mean, you know, it's like to have them run across the water.
Oh, that was
laughing.
Man.
Just changed everything. We're just going like, it was such a blast. You know? So.
Yeah. Wow. I kind of want to touch on that, the theology part on that, because I feel
was it a little controversial?
Just a little bit. Just a little bit. But I mean,
just a wee bit. Roasted by every Pharisee out there.
Yeah. But I kind of, can you
that was the biggest critics I heard too.
Well, most of the people that hated it didn't read it.
Yeah.
They just knew it was bad.
Oh, really?
Yeah, and I'm sitting there going like, of three of us that wrote it, one of us came from a place that I don't agree with. And it was universal reconciliation.
Oh, okay.
Where the idea that there isn't any hell, or if there is, it's redemptive, and just at the end of the day, everyone gets saved. And I'm going like, as cool as that would be, I just have too many verses, especially red letter ones, that I stumble over as far as finding agreement with that.
Yeah.
So in the 18 months that we did 4 major rewrites on that thing, we really kind of challenged that out of the book.
Okay.
But I didn't think the questions were wrong. And so we left the questions in, because I think the questions are thought-provoking, you know. But we just were really careful into whose mouth things were said. So I can defend everything doctrinally. I mean, I got enough degrees behind my name to be a thermometer, okay? It's like, I do. I'm smart. I love theology. I really study. I care a lot about it. But at the end of the day, I think God's more of a person than a doctorate test.
Yeah.
And so the whole point of it wasn't to get lost in that, but I knew people would stumble, and we were just rebellious enough to want to do a missile shot over the bow of organized religion, because I don't think it helps most people.
Mm-hmm.
I think there's too many hurdles that it doesn't give people a great glimpse at how glorious God is.
Yeah.
They get a lesser caricature. And I think most people have real discernment in rejecting that.
Yeah.
Yep.
So it was a struggle to have a buddy come from a very different position, and then as much as we thought he had let go of his position, the truth is he really hadn't.
Mm.
And then so there was a lot of controversy because people recognized where he was at, and they sort of saw into the questions, oh, you're trying to trick us. And we're like, no, we actually were trying to square this more solidly as just basic, biblical truth. But, oh, man, was it a hornet's nest of
Yeah.
I mean, stuff to deal with. You're just like, is this what it feels like to get roasted at the stake? Well, sort of.
Yeah. Well, I know hearing a lot of people, like reading comments and hearing comments from other people, the biggest issue was how Papa was a woman.
Yeah.
And how
God
the
was a
Holy
woman.
Spirit.
Big black lady.
Well, yeah.
Hate to ruin it for everybody.
Yeah. Well,
Raw truth
I didn't.
here.
Yeah, I didn't hear any race, but I'm sure there's a lot of race issue about that as well. But I mean, the gender.
Would we
issue.
have felt any better about a big white lady?
Yeah, exactly.
You're
Yeah.
just going-
But the gender issue was so big for so many people, but they missed the point
Missed
of
the
how
whole point.
of how he couldn't. His father obviously. Like he had
really
wounds. He had
abusive,
wounds exactly
and he
from his
couldn't
father.
have handled a father.
Exactly. They missed that whole
Yep.
point because, like what you said, they didn't read the book or they didn't watch the movie, and so it's
Well,
like
it triggers people when you read stuff and you got your own issues, or you're kind of looking at stuff to like pick flies out of poop.
yeah,
You're not reading it and allowing it to speak to you. You're kind of reading it through a real critical lens, and I think
Yeah, that's
I think
true.
people were preconditioned.
You already got their mind made up.
Yeah.
Yep.
Kind of, or they hear the little things that trigger that you're sort of like, you extrapolated that to your conclusion.
Yeah.
I challenge you to go back and find the real conclusion.
that's right.
But we're just rebellious enough to do that on purpose. I mean, and the truth is because it was so controversial within the church, it amplified the world's willingness to take a look at it.
Mm-hmm.
If we had had no controversy in the church, it might just be this rusty little dusty book over in the corner that did nothing. The fact
Very
that we
true.
pissed off so many people,
Yeah.
it's like, I want to read that.
Yeah,
Yep.
And so whether we got them for good or bad reasons, they got into it.
yeah,
And, I think to me it's so amazing that God would actually go, hey, I'm so committed to touching your life. What do I have to do to find a way that you can hear me?
mm-hmm. Exactly.
Well, do you really want to? I mean, if that's the heartbeat behind it, do you really want to argue about that? Or do you really want to recognize maybe God's heart's like that?
Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And it's like, is God actually have male anatomy? Is that what we're saying? God's a spirit, but no, he really does have a ding-a-ling? I don't think so. I'm sorry what your podcast is.
No,
It's
you're good.
not
This is
appropriate
raw.
to say
This
that.
is raw. Yeah.
Okay, we're true speakers
Yeah,
here.
You're on the right
Okay.
podcast to say that.
Yeah.
Okay, yeah, man. Around the world, different words mean different things. I have gotten in so much trouble without knowing that, okay? But it's like when you stop and freeze frame the thoughts, like, really what you're saying is men are more important than women? Like, only men could be made in the image of God? You're going to axe 50% of the population and say that they're not quite as valid?
Mm-hmm.
And I think when you sort of, thank God we pushed back, because then it really does liberate a whole bunch of other people. As much as I love history, I don't know that our historical, patriarchal dominated history has really done all that wonders for women. And none of us are women, so we don't really know what it's like to feel disenfranchised from what you believe in. But what's so crazy is some of the people that were most pissed off were women. And I'm scratching my head going like, I'm sorry, I really don't understand. We thought we were trying to be helpful.
Yeah.
But when you get ingrained that we're supposed to worship God and this is the right way, we get pretty, I mean, I don't know what you guys have experienced, but we get pretty tied to that. And when someone comes in and upsets that apple cart, most people are not like, thank you.
Yep.
Yeah. You stick to what you know.
Yeah.
Mainly. But, I mean, God can do whatever he wants to whoever he wants, but
I mean, you just read the stories of Jesus, and most of the acts he did was rebellion. I mean, to rebellion to the Pharisees.
Countercultural, yeah.
Yes. So the pathway of controversy, we're not the first to walk on it.
Yeah.
And if we're going to follow Jesus, I sort of felt like that's not so bad. It's okay if we follow his path a little bit.
Amen.
He seemed to bother people.
Yeah.
He does.
All the right people.
Exactly.
Yeah. So do you have any more questions on the shack?
No, I think I'm good. You want to transition?
Well, I mean, we're still in the interview
Yeah.
or the introduction.
The introduction, yeah.
Part one.
Part one introduction.
Now would be a great time for an advertisement, but no.
Yeah.
So where do you want to go?
So after that, well, you're involved in a lot of stuff. So on down the list, you're the CEO of Windblown Media and Shiloh Road Publishers.
Yeah.
That's what DuckDuckGo said.
Okay. Wow. Did you
The
know
new
I'm also,
Google.
Did you also know that if you Googled real far, I'm also a Hindu New Age worshiper devil guy. And they got websites that totally roast me that you just go like, for real?
Wow. All right, cut. We got to cut this.
Yeah, that's it.
Rick told you were interviewing a heretic.
Yeah, he did say that. Oh shoot!
I've found things on the internet that I didn't know about myself.
That's interesting when you do
It'll
that.
do
When
that.
you Google a Christian person, it seems like you find all kinds of stuff on there.
Exactly.
Yeah, it's kind of crazy.
Yeah,
But it's on the internet, so it must be true.
It must be
It's
true.
gotta be true.
Exactly. Fact checkers check that one.
Yeah.
It's legit.
Fact check.
Only the paid ones.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
You are or you were a co-host of your own podcast called The God Journey?
I was. We did. It was the other guy that helped write the shack. We did a podcast together. We just became buddies. He started listening, and he came to the church I was preaching at, and he was there because he knew I was about to get myself bounced out. You know,
He's like, here's a buddy to help.
I thought I was reeling him in, like I was going to get him back in the game. And he's like, no, this poor guy's going to get himself bounced out. Because I was sort of talking about a leaderless Christianity, and I would take up the offering, and then we would just give the offering all away to whoever had need that night.
Oh.
I thought that was the funnest way to take up the offering.
That's pretty cool. I never.
It's
seen
like if
that
you
done
want a
before.
tax deduction, go ahead and write it out to the church. If you want to bless the church, since the church is not the building, and it's not the corporation,
It's not.
but it's all the people. Maybe don't wait so long if you know that your neighbor has need. Maybe just hand them your 20. And I got to tell you, that unleashed something awesome. Because there's a whole bunch of young people, and they don't have no money. And our bills were paid. And I'm going like, money's the biggest problem for most people. And the church is always asking for it. And I'm sitting there going like, I want to reach them. God's the most generous person on the face of the planet. So why do we not demonstrate that? So if there's a need, shouldn't we as the body be able to supply that need? And so offering time was the best.
We're supposed to be the answer to the poor, not the government, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
But I don't think our board of directors enjoyed the way I took up the offering. So I got myself in a lot of trouble.
This is where courage will get you.
Courage, yes.
Yeah.
It's in short supply.
Yeah.
Very true.
But it's like you look at Jesus, and he's the one who changes the world. And you just go like, okay, so are you guys courageous?
Are you asking us?
Oh,
The interviewee's going to ask the host, the interviewers.
I would like to think
I want
so.
to think so. Yeah,
Yeah.
exactly. I mean, that's what our podcast is all about. Is
Okay.
awakening
Yeah.
the courage in
So
others,
where does your courage come from?
from God?
From God, yeah.
From
Okay, but take it out of the, yes, it's from God. But get a little more specific. Because it's available to all of us.
Yeah.
Why are
That's a
so
good question.
few
I
laying
like
hold of it?
I
And I'm
don't-
not here to stump
Yeah.
you. I'm curious. You guys do.
Well,
It's like you got something going on. How do you translate when everyone else is hiding and playing Survivor style, like I don't want to get voted off the island?
Yeah.
Why are you sticking your necks up and getting yourselves in potential trouble.
Well, courage to me is a choice.
Yes.
It's something that you choose to do, even if there's fear involved.
Okay.
Fear has to be involved.
So it's not the absence of fear.
No. It's in the midst of fear. It's overcoming fear.
Nice.
All this stuff is for free, guys.
Yeah,
Nice.
exactly. Yeah. It's not fear overcoming you. Yeah.
That's good. That's good.
Write the quote down.
Yeah, write down. Yeah. Make it a T-shirt. Yeah.
Nice. Merch.
Merch. Exactly. Yeah. But it's overcoming fear, not fear overcoming you. That's the thing. To me, courage is the bridge to greatness. It's the bridge to your calling, your purpose, your destiny. You can't get anywhere without courage. Like, I wouldn't be here right now. I'm choosing right now to be courageous doing this interview because I've always been scared to speak and stuff in front of people.
Really?
Yeah, in front of cameras and all that. So
I wouldn't know that.
exactly.
He
But
looks
I'm
like a natural.
Yeah. That's the thing. People think I'm a natural, but in reality, I'm terrified.
Of
But-
what?
Of just speaking, talking, trying to say the right thing, trying to, quote the perfect sentence or whatever.
So then isn't a good way of getting rid of the fear by stop worrying about what other people think
Exactly.
and just being yourself?
Yeah. That's what I'm doing right now.
Because I honestly think that's what an adult is.
Mhm.
I mean, I don't know if are you guys adults yet?
Yeah.
We've created a new category called young adults.
Yeah.
And
Yeah,
it's like,
no.
okay, well, what is that?
Yeah.
Either you are one or you're not one.
Yeah.
What is that?
a
An
good
adult
question.
is someone who's decided to take responsibility for themselves.
Yeah.
And they've decided to go, I'm going to be me.
Yeah.
Everyone else is looking to sit at the cool kids' lunch table. And I'm not sure that they're adults.
Mm-hmm.
The adults are kind of like, I think I've graduated from that. I don't think that's as important. I'm going to
I
just,
can take
I'm
matters
going to
in my
be
own
me.
hands. Yeah.
And I'm going to think what I'm supposed to think.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm going to do what I believe I'm supposed to do. And if I mess it up, I'll fix it. Or I'll say I'm sorry. Or I'll do something to try to not mess it up. But I'm just going to start doing it. The minute you do that, it's like you are growing in courage.
Mm-hmm.
That doesn't seem to be so scary.
Yeah. Exactly.
And so by practicing speaking, your courage has increased.
Exactly. And I get
So you
less
just gotta
and
do
less nervous or worried or whatever.
Yeah.
Or fearful.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Aren't we kind of afraid when we're being self-conscious?
Yeah.
The fear of other people.
Yeah.
Well, I can be self-conscious just by myself.
Yeah. That's right. Yeah.
Oh yeah.
I mean,
yeah.
I don't know.
I get what you're
If,
saying.
maybe I'm just weird, but I can experience that sense of, I don't know. Or that feels goofy.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, to finally learn how to kind of pray out loud to God when it's just me and Him. It's
Mhm.
like I would cerebrate to God before, and I sort of felt like when I give actual breath to what I'm doing, I'm committing more of myself to this. And to actually do that, I've got to figure I'm talking to someone. And when the room's empty and I can't see that someone, I can get self-conscious and feel goofy. So I don't need an audience to feel goofy. I can just do that to myself. And I've got to find a way to go like, every time I'm looking at me, I struggle with that. Every time I'm focused on Him or what He's asked me to do, I find something growing inside that is a choice, but it's not so much of a choice as it's a supply that I didn't have when I was looking in the wrong direction. And so I think when I'm looking at Him, I'm not trying to be courageous. I find courage. That's for free.
Wow.
That's a mic drop right
Yeah.
there.
Yeah. We'll make hoodies for
What
that
about
one.
you? You're in the hot seat now. How about you?
So how I found courage, because I struggled actually for a while, for the last couple of years on courage and I guess self-confidence, I guess, or how should I say it? Focusing a lot on me. But then I guess with the whole politics thing went down. So besides the word, it's really my love for the country, my love for the future, and knowing that I'm going to have a family, I'm going to have kids, makes me rise up because the cause is greater for me.
So you're looking at America, and it's looking like we're having some problems.
A little bit.
A
Yeah,
little.
just a little bit of
Just a
problem.
Just a little bit of messed up.
And
Yep.
so I know that in order to preserve freedom, somebody's got to come out and speak truth. And so I'm like, you know what? If nobody does that, I'll do it. I don't care. Like,
And
I'm
typically,
doing it more than just for me. It's for the generations. It's for the country, and just reading all the founders and their words and stuff about how it's our right and it's our responsibility God has given us for this country. It's like, okay, this is my duty to stand up for this country and stand up for others.
Nice.
I guess so.
Your generation doesn't tend to be too connected to politics. Am I correct in that observation? Please,
yes.
if I'm wrong, that's awesome.
No, I think you're right, but also I think they are in politics, but in a different way. It's more cultural.
In a very
I guess.
passive way.
Unpack that a little bit.
So like,
You guys do care about the nation.
Yes. Well,
my love for the nation is what feeds my
You're
courage.
Canadian. I'm
yes.
sorry.
Hey, I may be Canadian,
But you care
at
about
birth,
nations.
but I love America.
Yeah.
Look,
yeah.
Okay.
Out of all my friends and everybody that I know, he's the most patriotic American out of all my friends.
I love
and
America.
he's not even from
I have American ancestors. All right, so
Nice.
the blood runs deep.
Nice. We all go back to Noah.
Yeah, but I
That's
mean,
true.
there's been studies that Gen Z is the most conservative generation, and
Yeah, you guys care about life.
yeah,
And you care about causes.
millennials
correct?
on the other hand, that's a different story.
Yes.
But I think a lot of people don't like to get involved in politics because of how controversial it is,
Right.
and
Because
conflicting.
it takes courage.
It takes courage, exactly.
Right.
And like what you said, the supply is lacking. But yet a lot of people that I know, especially that aren't Christians, are very into like the whole transgender movement, and they're not involved in. They don't like talking about politics, but they like talking about certain issues that are affected by politics.
Right. Okay.
Does that make sense?
Yeah. No.
Yeah, it's like more of a cultural thing.
Instead of
than
taking it head on,
Yeah.
you want to go around it.
Well,
Yeah.
you know what? I would be curious what you think about this. I wonder it's that they're not really interested in wielding power over people. They actually care about people. Would that be accurate of your generation?
Yeah, I think so. I think that'd be accurate.
I don't see a bunch of power hungry. How do I take over the world? I think they tend to be a little more compassionate and a little more corporate centered, going like, that's why the whole fairness thing's important.
Yeah.
That's why the whole taking care of the poor actually matters. They're just not sure whose job it is,
Yeah,
but they don't like the way it's being done. And so they're a lot more, I think there's a lot more love and a lot more compassion, and they know things aren't working, and so they're not interested in doing the same old systems.
Yeah, they know the problem, but they don't know the solution.
Yeah.
That's the thing. Yeah,
Yeah.
I think our generation's very aware of the problems that's going on around the world.
Yeah.
But
A lot of
the
people
thing
get sick
is,
of politicians.
yeah, the thing is though, they don't know
They
the
don't
solution.
necessarily speak truth.
Yeah.
Yeah. They like to
That's
make
true.
things sound really good, and then they can control you.
Well, I think we kind of know when we're being sold. Like when
Yeah.
you go into a store and the first person comes up, can I help you? I don't know about you, but I go shields up like, no.
Yeah. Keep walking. Yeah.
Leave me alone.
Yeah, and it's kind of like, just no, let me just check things around. And if I have any questions, I'll ask you.
Yeah.
I wonder if that's not this generation's response to the politicians. Is they're just not interested in the games that you guys play. We don't really care so much about what you're doing. We actually care.
That's a good analogy. Yeah.
And because I think people older than me or my age will look at your generation like, well, they're just disconnected, as if you don't care. And I'm going like, I think they're disconnected, but I think they deeply care.
Yeah.
I just think that they've been so long been out of the loop of whose job is what in the government, what their rights are, that they're trying to even come out of the water for clarity.
Yeah. What's
And
a
everything-
constitution?
Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, David Barton has done polls, and like what 50% of politicians don't even know the Constitution, and there's
Yeah, they haven't read it, but they're sworn to defend it.
Yeah.
exactly. And
Thank you.
But even our people our age that are Christians don't even know the roles of government and church. They get those conflicted a lot.
No, well, I mean, if they're a product of our modern educational structure,
Yeah, exactly.
one, you haven't been taught. And if you've been taught, you've been given more of a Marxist lean.
Yeah, exactly.
And without poking the eye into the Marxists, but you're just going like,
Yeah.
if we actually knew what that was, no one would really want to go that direction. but they're being told it's about being nice and sharing and
Tolerant.
So they're tapping into the compassion that's resident.
Yeah.
And kind of leading you falsely down a road, saying that's what it will look like when we get there.
Yeah.
And it's like, no, it won't. And if you don't know history, you won't be able to raise your hand and say, excuse
Exactly.
me. Anyone who's ever tried to go down that road ends up going off a cliff and killing lots of people in the process. So can we find out what you do want to do and what you do want to fix? And can we aim you towards, I mean, your whole generation got swept up in the whole BLM Antifa stuff.
Yeah. Yeah.
And it's like they had no idea what's the ideology behind it. But do they care about black people and do they care about all people? It's like, yeah, well, who does it?
Exactly.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's like, who does it?
Exactly.
Yeah.
But try standing up and saying to your peers, like, there's something whacked about the organization.
I have lost friends.
Yeah, you get smacked down. Talk about whack-a-mole. It's like you're getting hit, and that's tough.
Called a racist. Yeah.
So you have a political bent. That's not very popular.
No.
No.
Deer in truck headlights. I know.
Yeah.
but you're seeing something that you care enough to go after.
Yeah. For the future and for
Someone's got to do it.
I love freedom.
Yes.
And so I grew up Amish. I came from an Amish background.
Really?
And that's very, very controlling.
You're a cool looking Amish guy.
Oh, I know, man. I grew out of the bull haircut.
I would never have guessed.
All Amish married men have long beards by now, so I'm kind of rebelling with that. But yeah. So I got out of that because I wanted freedom, and so it's always been in me to fight for freedom, no matter the cost. And not just that, but I heard a lot of the things that the media wants to cover up about child trafficking, sex trafficking, all that stuff, and so.
It's so dark.
By standing up and just speaking truth behind all these organizations and stuff, I feel like I'm fighting for them to expose all this stuff.
Yeah.
And a lot of the stuff that goes on in our country is from politics. It's from, it's by people abusing the power in government. And so,
yeah,
it's people that talk about freedom while they like to control others.
Exactly.
Yeah.
There's something wrong with that.
Mm-hmm.
And
Exactly.
it's like that whole...
They're there to serve, not to control.
Yeah.
Yeah.
See, my son helped us with that Founder's Bible when he was in high school, and it lit his fuse. He kind of went, Dad, if this is what they had purposed, if this is what's supposed to be this country, we are a far ways from there. But he found that so compelling. He said, I want to be called... I think God's calling me into that space. And I'm going like, oh, so if Hollywood isn't dark enough, you're going to go into the bellier of the beast?
Exactly.
I mean, it's like politics is like, that's a blood sport. That's worse.
But why is that, though? Because the church has been out of politics. Christians have been out of politics.
Yeah, we've let the meat go rotten. We stopped being salt.
Yeah.
And this is like, pre-refrigeration comment from Jesus. You use salt to preserve anything that was meat.
Yep.
You didn't have a refrigerator to stick it in to slow its rotting process.
Yep.
Yeah.
And that's just a crazy concept for a cloistered little monk-like church in the corner.
Yeah.
That is, trying to keep itself, pure from the unholy things. You're just going like, salt meant you're supposed to rub it all over everything to preserve it. And that is not the church's courageous place of engagement.
Mm-hmm.
And guess what? Salt burns sometimes. When it's
No kidding.
Yeah.
No, but have you
Yeah.
ever swam in the ocean with a sunburn?
Oh, yeah.
The first few moments is, you're gonna invent some swear words. It's like, ouch! Oh, this is terrible. But after about 10 minutes, it's actually been healing you.
Yeah.
That is so cool. Did you know the ocean can heal you? That's for free too.
That's for
Wow.
free. Wow.
Getting a lot of things for free here.
Lots of stuff for free.
Yeah.
Or paid for by the creator.
Yeah,
How about we
exactly.
say
Yeah.
that?
There you go. Yep.
So you had, go ahead with your question.
Well, I was just going to say, I truly believe, the founders, they would not recognize the America today that they
No,
created
I'm afraid a few of them are
years ago.
doing rolling over in their grave, going like, "We gave up everything
Yeah.
for this."
For real.
There's a
I just literally read a quote from Samuel Adams that said that basically the same thing that you said. But anyway, go ahead.
yeah, the whole bit where they gave up their lives, their fortunes, and their sacred honor. And it wasn't just words, because most of them, I think the thing that I was so taken back because I went to seminary, got 16 units of American church history. I thought I knew it. And then I spent the weekend with David Barton doing something, and I was hearing from
blow your
all
mind.
of his staff and his son, and they're all telling me this different stories, and I'm going like, I've never heard this. I've never heard this. I've never heard this. How did I never hear this? How are they telling me stories about people that are some of the biggest rock stars in history, and I've never heard them? And it's like I was getting mad. And so I'm lying in the hotel room, and the Lord says, I want you to do the Founder's Bible.
Wow.
And I'm going like, what's a Founder's Bible? And I think I told you guys this. My first response is, no, Lord, we don't need another Bible.
Yeah.
We just need to read the one we have,
Yeah,
you know?
that's right.
But I recognize what was so amazing in the stories that they told me is the sacrifice that went into our being able to actually have a personal copy that we could read. That was not a given back in history.
Mm-hmm.
And even where it was free, it was typically chained to the pulpit in the church because it was so darn expensive just to have one, that if you wanted to go read it, you had to go to the church, stand there, and read it there. And I'm sitting there going like, I've got 26 in all different colors, shapes, and sizes, most of which are collecting dust. And I'm sitting there going like, what would they think about me? And I'm a professional minister at the time. And so you're just going, I love the Bible and actually read it a lot, but I had no idea the sacrifice that went in. And I just sat there going like, oh, tell me more. Because this was making me love the Bible more than I already did. And I kind of went, oh, if word about this gets out, that might just help a whole lot of people. And what was so amazing is the impact that this has had on a younger generation for which all of these things have been withheld. Not just a little. It's like the whole story of God's work in our nation has been erased from the history and memory of this younger generation. And there's nothing cooler telling the young people you've been lied to. They kind of go like, I have? Yeah. And they find some courage and want to do something about that.
Yeah.
And so when actually people start to learn about some of what this is, you're just going like, you know, the founders weren't just a whole bunch of old guys with, slaves and just a whole bunch of white supremacists. Like, they were guys in their 30s. They were farming. They were inventing. If something broke, they didn't order it on Amazon. They had to fix it. And they had to make it. They had to invent it. They had to figure it out for the first time. And they were changing the nation in a way that nowhere on planet Earth had they ever come up with the idea that man could govern himself. Never before ever tried.
No nation ever.
No nation ever. America was this little holy experiment that the monarchies of the world were looking at going like, we're not so sure we like this.
Yeah.
But it won't work. Single longest standing constitution known to man. It's been in existence, and it has allowed for the principle and the practice of self-government. Whenever we stop doing that and we look to somebody else to be my source, I think that's the seedbed of most all of our problems in this nation, is we're thinking it's somebody else's job.
Exactly.
And so that takes courage.
Yeah.
I mean,
Amen. It does.
It's like when everyone else is getting their free phone and you're going like, no, I'm going to buy mine. You're going to change the world by not jumping on the welfare bus.
Yep.
Because the welfare bus is going over the cliff with the rest of the economy.
Yep.
And it just won't work if we don't have an engaged citizenry. And it's like, well, why are you going to sacrifice for a nation? Why would you do that?
Yeah, and that's like a lot of people are sacrificing their freedom for short-term security.
Exactly.
But it's because they don't understand their freedom. They don't.
Right.
They don't get that.
They don't get taught raw truth.
Exactly.
Guess what? It's up to you to be successful, not the government's job.
Yeah.
So get off your butt and go to work.
Nice. Go at it, guys. This is good.
This is every day.
This is
every
awesome.
day.
Keep it going.
We just iron sharpens
I'm
iron.
liking this.
Iron
This is
sharpens
good.
iron. Yeah.
So that's one of the things that gives me courage is because I see this stuff in my generation, and I know what is going to where it's going. And you can just read one page of history about communism and see what it did. That's enough to give me courage to stand up and fight.
Yeah.
Now, let me ask you, and I'm not expecting you, because I've asked this of many, 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 many people, and they really don't have a meaningful answer. So I'm not trying to stump you, but I'd love for us to talk about this. Jesus, give him the answer right now.
Holy Ghost.
What does freedom mean?
Freedom means that I have control over my life and I get to do whatever I want, not people telling me how to live my life, I guess.
Okay. What about you?
So freedom to me, there's a quote. It's like, I can shake my fist however I want so long as I don't hit you.
Okay.
So it's like I can, Have you heard that before?
No.
No? Okay.
You can write that down.
Yeah, you write that down.
Caleb,
Yeah.
Once again,
I can
shake
swing
your
this
fist as long
wherever
as
I
you don't
want
hit me.
as long as I don't hit anybody. So it's like,
Okay.
it's freedom is being able to do things without being told how to do them or what to do, without being told what to do or how to do it.
What's your definition?
Yeah.
What's freedom to you?
I have thought about this a lot, so I have a few little building thoughts.
Oh, get the pen and paper right now.
No. You ready for it? The ability to choose. I'm being entrusted with something that's precious, that is godlike. I get to be a decision maker. But along with that awesome privilege comes the responsibility that I'm responsible for what that choice leads to, good or bad.
Mm-hmm.
And knowing the weightiness of that, if I really want to be free, I know that only is going to happen if I have someone seated on the throne in my life. Because I don't know about you, the selfish self takes me off track a whole bunch of times. And I find myself, if I just go the way I want, I run out of choices. Because the way I sometimes choose does not leave me free.
Mm-hmm. That's right.
And so I realize in order to exercise that ability to choose, and if I want to do this for the long haul, I'm going to need wisdom and guidance. And it makes me want to then go, okay, freedom is not licentiousness where it's just I can do whatever I want. Freedom only exists in the presence of boundaries. Mm-hmm. So I want to find out what are those boundaries and why are those boundaries. And I'm pretty sure that none of the other flesh and blood human beings are really capable of answering like that, like the one who created me. And he created me to be free. Mm-hmm. My freedom is one of those rights that's unalienable, meaning you can't take it away from me. It was given to me. He gave me life. He gave me consciousness. And now I am free to speak my mind. And we don't ever get to the place of government until we want to establish something that protects those God-given rights. Mm. Most people don't understand that.
Exactly.
You're right.
Their sole job is to protect those rights.
Yeah, the government does not exist to tell me what I can do.
So for the government people that want to say, oh, it's not our decision.
Yeah, you write that down.
Yeah. For real.
So for government officials that want to say, it's not up to us to decide whether or not to regulate abortion. Actually, so what are your thoughts on that?
Well, here's the deal. If that baby had the exact same DNA as the mama, then it would be a portion of her body and it would be the same as her. The fact that it has a distinct and unique DNA means it's life. Mm-hmm. It's living inside her. I'm sorry, but you had a choice if you didn't want something like a baby living inside you. You made a choice that opened the possibility for that. Mm-hmm. Now well, I don't like, this wasn't the timing. This was, I get that. And if it was your life, it would be your choice. It is not your life, so it's not your choice. Everything that pertains to your life does get to be your choice, including whether you get a vaccine or not, which I'm not going to.
Amen,
That's a
brother,
whole
me
nother
either.
subject, okay?
Yeah.
Unpolitically correct, all right? But it's truth. It's like what we're missing in the Bill of Rights is our health freedom.
Oh, yeah.
What we're missing in the Bill of Rights is my right to personal enterprise. You can't tell me I can't have a business and I can't work, I can't enjoy the fruits of my labor. That's intrinsic to who I am. So on the issue of abortion, what was the coolest thing to ever find out is I think some of the most cogent arguments about the right to life and about abortion came out of the 1500s. And we were like, well, abortion was decided. Wasn't that Roe v. Wade?
Yeah.
Wasn't that just like 50 years ago or something like that?
There's nothing new under the sun.
There isn't. That's the thing. I just sat there going like, oh, my lands. These dudes seriously had a smoking understanding of God, and they recognized in Europe it's different. Children are under parental rights, so parents have the right to decide whatever's going on with kids. America was different. America says it's not governmental or parental rights. It is the right to life. It is unalienable. There is a creator. There's no such thing as a man and a woman having sex and having a baby that doesn't involve a creator God who has authored that life. And if he's authored that life, gone is your singular choice about its outcome.
And so if that is a life in the womb, then it is the government's job to protect and to scare it.
Exactly.
That's the only reason.
Point.
They're
Fist bump. Nice.
That's the
You guys
only
got it
reason.
going on.
So, because
we
we talked about this in our earlier series
Yeah.
of life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness, because we want people to know what their rights are so that you know what to fight for, right?
Yeah.
So, but the government people that want to say it's not our job, it's like the only reason you have a job is to protect that life.
Yeah.
Otherwise, why are you doing the government then?
And what's really cool is when the Pilgrim guys came over, they never called themselves Pilgrims, by the way. That's a moniker we put on them. They purposely did not call themselves anything. No.
I'm so offended.
Yeah. Sorry about that, guys.
We apologize.
Yeah.
No, they felt like pilgrims because they were seeing themselves as the downline of the same journey as Abraham. They were looking for a city whose builder and maker was God.
Wow, come on.
And they realized they were sojourning through time and space unto a something that was awesome. And they were trying to build a society that would look like that. But when they came over for religious freedom, but the truth is only a third of the people that came over were actually believers. 2/3 were not. A third. The minority were the believers. 2/3 were over exploring, and then were part of the Dutch, corporation, and they were sent out, and they were going to be agents of the crown to expand resources and trade and all that other stuff. And so when all of a sudden they got shipwrecked here, and they went 66 days of, turbulent seas, nearly died, and then it's like half of them died the first year, and half of those died. So within 2 years, you got 1/4 of all the people. They were in serious, like, what do we do mode.
Yeah.
But they wanted to have freedom, and they knew that if I impose my opinions on you, that's the tyranny of my opinion. So they believed in the whole principle of voluntary participation, the sovereignty of conscience and the individual's choice had to reign supreme. And so we had to agree upon, if we're going to live together, we had to have some way to draw a compact. And they didn't want a single person to be that sole decision maker. It's like no king but Jesus. And the closest thing to that was, we'll read his word.
Was that in the Mayflower Compact?
Yeah, we'll read his word. And where it has something to say, we will model ourselves after that. That will be our court of appeal. And if it doesn't have something to say, that is the land of freedom where you are subject to your own conscience, and I don't get to dictate what that is. You have to make up your mind.
Boy, we have come so far from that.
But think of the wisdom of that's a way a pluralistic society can actually live in peace, because they're dignifying each other with the sense of going, you have to have an educated conscience. If you don't educate your conscience, then you're going to make a whole bunch of decisions that won't be right for everybody. But if your conscience will get itself educated, then you'll know the things that we need to agree upon. And we need to kind of say, hey, I don't care if you're an actual personal follower of Jesus in your heart. They weren't mandating that. They weren't mandating forced conversion. They were saying we need to have some things that will allow us to live. It's like, you don't get to sleep with my wife. You don't get to take my cow. It's like, if you can agree with the simple things on the Ten Commandments, then the truth is whether you believe in the Savior that I do, you will be a good citizen, because those will govern how we care for one another. We will respect each other with dignity. But then,
which was like the common law, or it turned into common law, right?
Yeah, and it's like they put it in the Declaration of Independence later, like another generation. These are the forefathers; those would be the founding fathers. But they talked about the laws of nature and of nature's God. That's their code for saying the self-evident truths that we should be able to see just looking around.
Common sense.
That the fact that there is a creator. You didn't create you. I didn't create you. You didn't create me. We didn't create the sunset. We can't do all that stuff. There is a God. You have to suppress that knowledge in Romans to suggest that there isn't. And so the fact that there is a God, that's where our rights come from. And so our social compact will be to protect those rights and to live for our common welfare.
And they came over here and sacrificed their life because they saw a future of this society, of them abiding by these 10 commandments. And that's what gave them courage to go over from a land far away to come to this country and start a new country.
We think they came from England, which is somewhat true, but they actually spent 12 years in Amsterdam.
Oh, the Netherlands?
Which was, and it was the bastion of freedom. But where they learned the importance of the individual, the sovereignty of your conscience and voluntary participation, is they saw the Netherlands run amok with the tyranny of other people's opinions. In the land of freedom, they were always fighting.
Wow.
And they sat there, we want to be peacemakers. We don't want to follow they had the best pastor ever on planet Earth, and this guy John Robinson, who didn't make the journey with him. But what he told him, he says, only follow me in what I have communicated to you, inasmuch as it lays that foundation, but do not stop there, because God has not revealed all truth back to us. We've been coming out of the dark ages, and we are having light restored to us. Do not camp around a man or an ism. Keep going, which is why they never called themselves anything. That is so profound. We named them because we want to have a moniker on them.
Yeah.
They refused to have a name because they weren't an ism. They weren't an ite. They weren't just turkey guy, with hats and turkey guns. They were people on a journey in pursuit of freedom, wanting to find a way to live in peace and harmony. How cool is that?
That's
very cool.